Can you point to one thing that got you either back into an activity or into an activity in the very first place? I can, and it's something that directly revolves around video gaming and made this channel happen. Back in January of 2015, I purchased a Retron 5. See, I was with someone at the time that had an original NES, and I fell in love with it all over again. I hadn't played an NES in a couple of decades. Well, the NES going to a modern flat panel TV looked terrible, and I wanted to fix that. And I had looked and I had found like those AV to HDMI adapters. Don't buy those, they're garbage. If you're gonna do that, get a retro tank. Trust me. But for me, the Retron 5 it really addressed a number of different issues for me. It not only played the NES and gave me an HDMI output, played Super Nintendo, it played Genesis games, and it played Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy Color. What it also did for me is it also gave me access to an international library as well, because it could play Famicom games, and I always wanted to play Famicom games, and it played Super Famicom games. Now, in recent years, Hyperkin has released an update to the Retron 5, and this is the Retron 5 Hyperbeach Edition. It's by and large a very similar machine to the one that I bought in 2015. One of the major differences, first of all, is the color scheme as you see here, but it also comes with two controllers. It comes with the wireless controller. You're going to hear me talk about it later on. It's not very good. And it also comes with a wired version of their Scout controller, which is actually one of my favorite Super Nintendo controllers. Does this here in 2023 measure up like it did back in 2015? Let's take a look and let's find out. So here we do have the rather large box for the Hyperbeach Edition in the photo booth. Now, one thing of note, just from a box standpoint, they have completely gone away from their dog-ear boxes that they had. Even my original Retron 5 had that. This does not. On the front here, you can see it does indicate that it will play Game Boy Advance, Super NES, NES, Genesis, and Famicom games. Does not reference it, but it will also do Game Boy Color, standard Game Boy games, Super Famicom will work in this, Mega Drive games will work in this too, so interesting that they have not mentioned those on here. And then the included Hyperbeach Scout controller does come in here. They do claim that this is the highest cartridge compatibility, original homebrew, and reproduction cartridges on the market. On the side here, it does show that it has 2 ports for Genesis, 2 for the NES, 2 ports for the Super NES, multiple system compatibility, wireless controller, high definition, audio video enhancement, has a graphical user interface, and original controller ports. And on this side here, not a whole lot. On the back, we have a ton of text. Of this text, you know, multiple system compatibility, we just talked about the GUI. High definition output converts signal to your HD TV with the maximum resolution of 720p. Save and load states, video enhancements, does have built-in cheats, wireless controller, it's garbage, wired controller, 2 controller ports for each system, and compatibility will play PAL and NTSC cartridges. CIC lockout chips and FX chips are no longer going to be an issue. They aim for 100% compatibility with all cartridges. We will make sure to check Battletoads. I did not have Battletoads when I had my original Retron 5, so I don't know if the Retron 5 works with Battletoads or not. Very nicely assembled and put together in here. I do like this. Now, we're going to pull the system out because one of the things I do want to point out here is something many people may not be aware of. So nice bubble wrap on here. So out of the box, oh, they even have a plastic film over here. I don't remember my original one having that. So back here is where the wireless controller sits when you're not using it. What this also works with is the power drive, or the power base converter for the Sega Genesis. It sits right in here. They designed it with that in mind, and that is why the Genesis slot is towards the back. So you do have your Genesis Mega Drive slot, Super NES, Super Famicom, NES slot, and Famicom slot. Those pins look pretty good. Now, I do happen to have a Famicom cartridge handy from our recent Video Games Monthly Unbox. I just want to check the pin fitment and depth grip. Not bad going in, but yeah, it's a bit of a tight fit coming out. Not terrible, but not great. I also have a copy here of Conker's Pocket Tales. Let's check the Game Boy slot on the front. Yeah, that's wonderful. That's really, really nice. And then next up, let's just try the NES. That's a tight fit. Let's try Super NES. Yeah, these pins are tight. And that is something that the Retron 5 is known for, is for having tight pins. Donkey Kong 2, this is Super Famicom. Those are tight. I'll pull this forward a little bit. Let's try my copy of Earthworm Jim here in the Genesis slot. Yeah, all of these are really tight. And then finally, the one thing I will test with this too is if it will work with the master drive. I don't think that it will, simply because it has to dump the ROM, and I don't know if it can do it via pass-through. But they do have an adapter, a 3-in-1 adapter, that will allow you to play Master System, HuCard, or not HuCard, but Sega card games, and Game Gear games through the Retron 5. Wow! Holy crap! Wow, that's a tight fit. Okay. So one thing on the side too is it does have these nice little booties that go over the controller ports to keep dust and crap out of the back. On the back, it does have your DC input, which is its own proprietary connector. This is what I broke on mine to begin with, is I dropped it while it was plugged in when we were packing up to move, I think it was. It fell right on this, it broke it off, I screwed it up. USB for charging the controller, HDMI output, and it does have an SD card slot. What's nice about this is you can actually load translation patches in. So like I have the Japanese version of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. I have a patch file I ran through my old system that would translate that version into English. And then you do have controller ports on that side too. Nothing on the underside. Any region switching and whatnot happens actually in the onboard menu. It doesn't happen at a hardware level. Now, one final thing too, when you do go ahead and power it up, have a system in or a cartridge in, a little LED will flash as far as if it is Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, NES, Famicom, NES, Super Nintendo, or Genesis. So let's go ahead, let's play some games. I'm excited. So two final things I did not show you during the unboxing. First and foremost is the wireless controller. And this is pretty much universally panned. It's a micro switch for the analog stick here. Not something I'm really a big fan of. I don't love the ergonomics. I don't like the face buttons. Overall, this is a pretty weak stock controller. Now, one thing that they have done now on the Hyperbeach Edition is they do now include one of their Super Nintendo controllers, and this is excellent. I have used these for a long time. This is actually my go-to controller when it comes to my wireless controller for my Super Nintendo. It's comfortable, it's ergonomic, it has both the concave and convex buttons. Overall, this is a really nice controller and something I enjoy using and will use quite a bit on here. Now, on screen, before your Retron 5 wireless controller may be used for the system, it must be paired. Press and hold the home button on your controller until the LEDs begin to flash rapidly in order to initiate the pairing process. So we're going to go ahead, hit the home button. Now we need to calibrate the screen size. Use the left-right buttons on the controller to adjust the size of the screen so that so the whiteboard is positioned on the outside edge of your screen. Well, that's as big as it goes there. Retron 5 quick info. If your TV has a game mode setting, make sure you have it on. Default in-game menu button combination, down and start. Save location is internal storage. And then settings. Image filter, you can have none. And then there's a number of different filters that you can have on here. Gonna go to none, scan lines on or off, aspect ratio normal, stretch, zoom, normal. Display overscan, on or off. Force original resolution, on or off. Screen refresh rate, match game. Force 60 hertz, force 50, match game. Screen size, and you can adjust that there. Force full range color input, on and off. Audio, sound enhancement, bass boost, treble boost. The GUI, that's the graphic user interface. You can change the sound effects there. Volume, controllers, you can manage your Retron 5 controllers. Button mapping, system fast cartridge loading, on or off. Console region, auto, USA, Europe, Japan, auto. Auto load last state, auto load cartridge on insertion. So basically what this means is when you put the cartridge in, normally, and we'll show you this in a second, it'll show you the title. If you auto load on insertion, as soon as it jumps the ROM, it's going to start playing the game. Automatically import saves on first run, save data location. Screenshot file format, you can do screenshots, it can do a PNG, it can do a JPEG. Show Retron, quick info on startup, file manager, system information, so on and so forth. So we're going to go back out of here. I think those are all of the settings. So we're going to start from the front of the system, going back, and I do actually have the system right here. And we are going to start with a Game Boy game. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in Donkey Kong. Now, one of the things with Game Boy games is the fact that for some reason, this system, actually this is going pretty fast for a Game Boy game. Game Boy Advance takes forever. Initial import save of data from cartridge complete. Donkey Kong. And I am going to just play with the original controller for starters. And here we have Donkey Kong. We're going to go ahead and hit the start button and just start playing. This looks like it's got a little bit of a green tint to it to me, but overall not too terrible. Sound is pretty decent. The button presses are pretty accurate on the wireless controller. Oh, I got caught there because I was indecisive. Let's see if I can not get smushed this time. I mean, yes, it's just the first level, but we got through the first level of Donkey Kong. We're going to go hit the home button, and we are going to return to main menu. Now you can see it has the JPEG on the lower right-hand side. We're going to remove the game. No cart inserted. And now we actually have the Japanese version here. This is Adventure Island 2. Warning, this cartridge was not recognized by the Retron 5. Usually this is due to a poor connection. And the cartridge, we will continue. Let's see what happens. Well, let's do this. We'll return to main menu. There we go. It just wasn't inserted all the way, it seems. Now, this is a game I actually just recently picked up from Japan Retro Direct, and pretty awesome. Now, on a larger display, I will say this does look a little bit on the blurry side to me, but again, this is something that was not designed to be, blown up to this size screen, but again, using the stock controller, which, generally speaking, most people have not loved, including myself, this is not working too badly. First level, not a problem there on Adventure Island 2. We'll return to the main menu. We're going to stop using this, just because, like I say, I'm not a huge fan of it. We are going to try out the Dogbone controller. And I will say the controller port feels just fine. Next up, this is the Japanese version of Link's Awakening for the Game Boy Color. Let's see what this does. That's cool, the way it loads the background and everything on here, too. Okay, I love the background on this. This is pretty amazing. And actually, I was able to press down and start, and it took me back to this. So there is an option to get back to the main menu without having to resort to the original controller. Now, here's Yoshi's Island for the GBA SP. Now, with this, we are actually going to try the included controller. And it's imported my initial save. That actually loaded pretty quick. That loaded a lot quicker than on the previous edition. I've been just on a kick on this game lately. Regardless of what I can play it on, I've been playing it. I gotta say, I am liking the way this is graphically looking. Button presses feel great. Oh, I forgot this is that level. Oh, I got smushed. But Yoshi's Island for the GBASP works just fine. So again, down and start. All right, so up next, we are switching to the Famicom, and I actually have a Famicom controller with an NES connector on it, and this is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. And the main reason to test this out, lag, latency, delay, how does it play? Was a rhyme, and I didn't even mean it to be. I think this looks beautiful. I mean, it's one thing that I've always been impressed with the Retron 5 is just how good the images look. Let's see what we've got for lag and delay on this, though. I would say pretty good. Press a button and a button responds. Sit down. Okay, so yeah, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out working just fine. How about... I can't believe this is ridiculous. But we are going to try out Altered Beast for the Famicom from Sega. Having some issues there with the controls. We're going to pause real quick, and I'm going to actually change controllers to see if it's this or if it's the game. All right, now switching over to a standard NES controller, but now this has a graphics gear overlay on it. This does feel better. I'm not surprised. I mean, I did purchase that Famicom controller back the first year I went to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and I haven't used it a ton. Power up! This is working beautifully as well. Back to the main menu again. So let's switch now over to the NES, and we're going to try Battletoads, because Battletoads Level 2 is always an issue with any clone system. Now, I'm not going to take you through the first level. The first level is not an issue. Let's get to the second level. All right, let's see what we can do here. Now, back when I had my original Retron 5, I did not have a copy of this game. So far, so good. We're getting pretty far here. Still working. It's still looking really good. This looks really good. Still going. Are we going to jinx it? This is pretty impressive. I honestly didn't think that I was going to get this far. It may actually get through the second level without an issue. No, don't die! We're going to stick with the NES side, and one of the games that I always utilize to test is Mario Brothers Duck Hunt. And there's a very specific reason. Actually, it's Mario Brothers. And that is because I want to make sure that the audio is spot on for what it should be. So let's go into Super Mario Brothers. This is accurately reproducing the audio, exactly as it should be. I think the colors on this look bright and vibrant. The audio is correct. You know, I'm not noticing any, real lag or delay or latency. I'm sure there's a little bit there going, via HDMI into a flat panel TV, but man, this is playing terrifically. All right, last test for the NES is Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. Again, this is something that tends to have a problem with some clone systems. It was normally the AV clones. We're just going to use random letters there. Most of the HDMI clones do not have an issue, but I want to see how the color and the sound and everything are. You know what I want to do here? I'm going to go to the main menu. We're going to go to main menu. I'm going to go to settings, and I want to change the audio and do the bass and treble boost. And now let's go back into the game and see how it sounds. Definitely sounds more full. I'm liking that. Now, I won't say this is quite as good as the expansion audio on the Famicom, but this sounds really, really good. And that is something that I can do with, I have an HDMI modded NES. Make sure you check out how we did it. And I actually almost ruined our system in the upper right-hand corner. But that will actually work with the expansion audio. But Castlevania 3 working well right now. I like how it looks. It sounds great. It's responsive. I mean, this is terrific. All right, so the last NES game that I want to test is actually my PAL version of Marble Madness. I got this back in 2018 when I was in Germany, and I have to admit, I don't know that I've ever played it. And we're going to go back to the original controller just to see what we got. I have to admit, I don't know that I've ever played this before. This is looking and playing perfectly. Like you can tell I'm terrible at it, but you couldn't tell me that this is a PAL game. That's wonderful. So it will do both NTSC and PAL games. It's great. Now, one of the game series that I always use to test any console, controller, what have you, is Street Fighter. Now, this is an actual Super Famicom controller, so we shall go ahead and see how we can do. I can't do the spinning sidekick for some reason, but I can do the dragon uppercut, and I can do the shuriken. Ooh, she got me back there. There we go. Nice combo. I will throw you as I see fit. Ooh, she got me back. Got her. Now, one thing we're going to do before the next round is I am actually going to switch to the included controller to see how that works versus an OEM piece of equipment. Yeah, I think maybe my controller issues were just with that controller because I'm able to pull off everything here. Got her. Oof. Nice combo there. Oh! Got her that time, too. I will say this is working fantastically with the included controller. Up next, this is my PAL version of Axelay. Again, I got this when I was in Germany back in 2018. This is an amazing Konami shooter, by the way. But instead of being a horizontal shooter, it's more vertical. English there. That was nice. It wasn't German. Oh, this looks beautiful. This is a great shooter. Oh, I am just not a great shooter. And this is one of the unique things about this is the fact that you can go ahead and change your weapons as you go on the fly. So there's the standard, which you don't really run out of. We got to watch out for the asteroids. Yeah, just like that, we died, but great working. It's working wonderfully. Now, the next test is we are actually going to throw in another copy of Yoshi's Island. Yes, I know that I showed it on the GBASP, but this is, again, the PAL version, and generally speaking, it does not like playing on NTSC systems. It works! We'll just dive into a level here to see. The one thing I'm curious is if it's in English. Interesting. I think in the past when I've played this, it's actually been in German. Wonderful. All right, we're going to go back to the main menu. Again, I just wanted to see if that would work. All right, we're going to try our Mega Drive adapter that we have here too, and we're going to see if it will load Sonic the Hedgehog. I kind of have my doubts. No way. And I even have my Master System controller plugged in. Oh, it doesn't like the controller. Ah! Okay, can't use Master System controller, but... So here is my JVC XI 3-button controller. There we go. That's working just fine. No way. No way. It'll play Master System games. That's awesome! Oh my god, this looks great. I did not think that this would work. Now, Hyperkin does have their own adapter that allow you to play Master System, Game Gear, and the Sega card games. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but this is sweet. And the cool thing, if you've never played Sonic for the Master System, it's not the same game as the Genesis game. Now, I will have to double check my footage when I edit, and I'll leave a text note down below. But right now, oh, you suck. Right now, my audio is out of sync with what I'm hearing through my monitor, but that could be because I'm going through a monitor. Okay, that is amazing that it will work with Master System games through the Master Drive converter. Down and start. Oh, that works great. I am very happy right now. And again, I will pop this out so you can actually see, or Master Drive, that's what it's called. This is what I was just playing. Amazing. Now what we're going to do, what about repros? What about ROM hacks? What about custom carts? Here's my copy of Hyperstone Heist, the less superior version of the Turtles. Wow, this is not wanting to go in. Unknown cartridge. Let's see if it plays. Yeah, even through this, I'm still hearing an audio delay, so I'm thinking it's probably the fact that I'm capturing and everything. Oh, this looks great too. One thing I have to do, there's a hack out there for the arcade 1-up for The Simpsons that you can put TMNT on it. And it is a, like, you don't have to do any hardware mods or anything. It's a soft hack. Soft mod, I mean. I've talked about him many times on here. My friend Chris, that we used to play games together all the time. And every time we would get to that point where they would say, and normally it was on Turtles in Time, let's kick Shell. His sister's name was Shelly. So if she was in the room, we would both try to kick her. What can I say? She was like a sister to me. And, well, she was a sister to him. So, I mean, what do I think compared to, like, some of the other ways that I have to play? Compared to my, original hardware, my my JVC XI with HD Retrovision cables, you know what? This might actually look a little bit sharper. I can see it's not 100% authentic, but you know what? It's really stinking good. And it kind of reminds me why I, when I got into the Retron 5, why it really got me back into retro gaming. I mean, look at all the different systems that I've tested just in this review, and everything has, by and large, worked without issue. You also get things like save states and the different filters, and one of the things that I have not gotten into, because I don't have it loaded up on an SD card right now, is the fact that you can do translation patches through here. So I remember on my original Retron 5, I actually had a translation patch in it so that I could play my Japanese version. I should have gone for the pizza there. My Japanese version of Link to the Past, and it was all in English. So for certain games that never got a true translation, it'd be a great way for you to go ahead and do that. The stock controller, the wireless controller, it's still not great. But the fact that you can go ahead now, that it does come with the wired Scout controller, is definitely a huge improvement. And the fact that you can access the menu and everything from the controller itself, whether you've got the wireless controller or just one of the wired ones, works well. Completely happy with that. The pins are tight. Cannot state otherwise. Before we finish this up, we are going to switch to one last game. And those who have been fans of the channel for any time know my affinity for Earthworm Jim. Next to Ratchet and Clank and Super Mario World, one of my favorite games of all time. I do like just the fact that this works with so many systems right out of the box. Yes, you can get the adapter for the Master System and for the Game Gear and for the cards. And it unlocks even more on here. They have done a really good job over the years keeping the firmware updated so that you get better responsiveness, better compatibility overall. I think that they're at like 99% games compatibility right now. And I will say I've not run into anything that wasn't a dirty game that did not play. This does seem to be a little bit more sensitive to dirty games than what I remember in the past. There have been a couple of times where I've gotten a blank screen or it did not read the the cartridge to begin with. That if I just took it out and cleaned it, worked just fine. This is still a damn fine system, and if you are just getting started in retro gaming or returning to retro gaming, this is a great place to start. Now, I think the overall performance is really, really good. I've been very happy with how it has played myself thus far. I think it looks fantastic, and it still has a lot of the same benefits that I haven't even unlocked here on this system now. The language translations, like I mentioned, is one of them. The fact that you can go ahead and you can actually run ROMs off of this if you so desire. I had a full SD card in the past that had all of those features built or basically loaded onto it. I have now become someone that I am not a huge fan of doing that. I don't do that anymore. If I don't have the game, if I don't own it, I don't play it. But overall, this is a really good way for you to play many systems in one. Now, it has gone up in price from when I first got it. I think I paid about $140. I got mine from Newegg back in 2015, like I mentioned. The Hyperbeach Edition now is about $180. Now, it does come with a second controller, which my version did not. It comes with more refined software, which mine did not. I could patch it, but it's one of those things that this has definitely taken the next step, and I think this is a really nice machine. Now, if you are looking to go ahead and pick one of these up, I will have a link down below in a pinned comment where you can go ahead and do so. Now, this is, like I've mentioned, it dumps the software onto the hardware itself. So you're technically not really playing the cartridge when you play. But when you're playing, you don't know. So as much of an issue as that could be for some, for me, as you're actually playing, it's a non-issue. I do wish that Hyperkin would update their included controller with this. Like, if there was some way they could replace this with a wireless Scout, or one of their, I'm sorry, I forget what the name of their Genesis controller is, that would be a huge improvement over this. If they could go ahead and update the power supply from that barrel type connection to a USB connection, I would love that as well. I would like to see them go ahead and update this for the next 10 years. As it is, the project itself is close to 10 years old as far as when they originally announced it and released it. But these are just my opinions. Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Also, if you want to see some of the other consoles that we've reviewed from Hyperkin in the past, because while this is an emulation-based system, they have done many hardware-based systems. I will have those linked for you in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, where you can go ahead and check those out. We've checked out the Retron 1 HD, the Retron 2 HD, the Retron 3 HD, and more.